within the sound of silence, and touch the sound of silence, and in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more, people talking without speaking, people writing songs that voices never shared. No one dared disturb the sound of silence.
Hello and welcome to the 48 Shades of Football podcast. That was the sound of silence there, and I think that's something that me and a lot of E-Land fans might have to get used to over the coming season. I think there was about 4,300 of us at the game, and there was probably about 6 of us actually singing something, so I had to take on the role of the stupid foreigner for a while, which I thought Bobby Cullen was filling quite well up until that point, but
it seemed to be.
I had to take that on and try and start some songs. My name is Stephen Waddell. I'm joined tonight by our usual cast of villains and experts. You can choose who's who. Sitting opposite me, I've got Mark Kelly. I understand Mark's off the drink this week, which it probably explains why you weren't at any games. I assume that you had to get the girlfriend to lock you in a cupboard to keep you away from the booze.
Pretty much, Stevie, yeah, pretty much. Amazingly though, I probably will still sound like a drunk Scotsman even though I haven't been drinking for about 2 days, yeah.
That's just how you sound normally.
That's just how I sound normally, yeah. Okay, well, on my left I have Paul Carver. Paul is not sporting his usual glum face, which is purely because FC Seoul haven't actually played since the last podcast. He is sporting his FC Seoul away top from a couple of seasons ago, which might also be the last time he was actually happy to be an FC Seoul fan as well. But anyway, yeah, Paul, hopefully we'll see something from FC Seoul this weekend, yeah?
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, we've not lost against Cheju for about 5 years, so hopefully the run will continue. I believe I mentioned in the podcast last week that Wednesday and Seoul never have the same result on the same weekend, but this weekend they both managed not to lose. So that's probably why my mouth turned up in a smile this week. So our host for tonight is Stevie. Last week he was just plain old Steve, the potential E-Land fan. This week he's been to a match, he's got captured on Korean TV, doing his best Delia Smith impression.
A message for the best football supporters in the world. We need a 12th man here. Where are you? Where are you? Let's be having you! Come on!
Infamy at last.
Yeah. So, once we get the Let's Be Having You up on the auto-tune, that'll be our new theme song for the podcast. And he's actually threatening to rival me for media infamy, so...
Media horse, what we call it, guys, isn't it, to be honest?
Absolutely.
But yeah.
I've got to admit, I thought I was getting turfed out the stadium when the guy tapped me in the shoulder and said, "Excuse me, can I talk to you for a second?" I'm sorry, I'll stop singing if it really upsets you that much.
Well, it all started a month ago when we went on a Korean football podcast, and then we've been doing our English podcast, and now you've been on various news programmes, so
yeah.
Surely a place on that foreign guys doing the round table is in your near future.
It must be either that or Arirang TV, which I think is where everybody's media career goes to die, doesn't it?
I think so.
So anyway, guys, there was no K-League Classic this weekend. So obviously you both of you would have been at the big match, the Seoul E-Land versus FC Anyang, where it all kicked off. Paul, as a good personal friend of Martin Rennie, you wouldn't have missed it for the world. So what did you make of the game?
I thought it was pretty good.
Was that from your seat in your bed at the time?
From my seat on the sofa at home, yeah. And to be honest, I did actually miss the first 15 minutes as well because I was out. But yeah.
Mark, did you make it to the game?
Strangely enough, I didn't make it to the game actually. I woke up on Sunday with the full intention of not going. But then I thought, well, assigned seating, it's just my luck to get stuck next to someone. Well, yeah. But if not you, the Korean you. And I thought, you know what? my sofa is more comfortable than a plastic Lego seat, so I stay at home.
It's kind of like when you go on an aeroplane, right? You always think, oh, maybe the person sitting next to me will be a hot chick, but it's always like either a smelly ajashi or an annoying crying kid or whatever, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I've always found that amazing that I've actually never been sat next to anyone hot, ever. I mean, I'm sure that's what they're saying as well.
I was just going to say,
The whole time
everybody
there.
who's sat next to you has a very similar thing to report.
opinion, but I mean, like, you would think that I think the amount of times I've flown like backwards and forwards to Scotland and whatever else, at least like at some point someone would have sat next to me that was reasonably attractive, but unfortunately not.
I think the airlines have all been informed.
I think so.
I did once fly back from LA to Seoul next to someone, a really hot chick, and it was the formation seats was a 2-4-2, so it was only me and her.
Everything's about football, isn't it? 2-4-2, 4-4-2, 4-3-3.
Is that a J formation? It's like we don't even need 10, 11 players
She
this
spent
week.
the whole 13 hours crying. So it's like,
I had a subway ride back to Goopaball like that once.
was it after the Buchon game?
Yes.
No, it was after one of these podcasts, actually.
Were you listening to the podcast at the time? That's why
I
you were
think
crying?
the girl next to me was.
Oh, okay.
Right, that's 5 minute, lads. I think we need to crack on and hit the nitty gritty.
Okay, so the game itself. Obviously, you guys weren't there, so
It's all down to you,
it's all
Steve.
down to me to give the match report.
I think obviously the game was important, being Eland's first game, but for me, we're going to have to wait a week or two, maybe 2-3 weeks to judge how the team's playing and how Martin's got them arranged. So I think for today, I'd like you to go in more detail about how good the arrangements were for their first home game.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what to expect when I first went there, because given it's been a mixed bag of things from Eland up until now. You know, some of the stuff they've done has been really great, and some of the stuff they've done has been not so great. So you never really know what to expect. And I think on the day overall, it was a pretty good day out. They've done, certainly the stadium they've put in there, they've done wonders with that. The whole temporary seating arrangement, the stand and all that stuff. You'll not get a better, certainly in the K-League Challenge, you'll not get a better viewing position, a better atmosphere, because there was 4,300 people there, and it actually felt like a full stadium, whereas there was 12,500 people at Buchon, and you still got that impression that you were sitting in a 30% filled ground.
So I assume having 4,500 crammed into one temporary stand meant the atmosphere was brilliant and electric, right?
It certainly was if you were an Anyang supporter sitting in your section of 200 people. They must have had a great time. From our side, no, I think the memo hadn't got out to the fans that you're actually supposed to do something when you turn up at the games. So the first 10 minutes was absolute silence. It was quite eerie, actually. You know,
Did they not even have those cardboard clapper things?
No, they hadn't done.
Wow, really?
They hadn't done anything like that. The other thing, none of the fans turned up with flags or banners or anything like that. So it was all. I don't know if it was the first game, whether it was just a kind of lot of families or whatever have turned up and just there for the first game experience, or whether that was maybe just they haven't really thought it through. Maybe it's people are new to football.
I mean, I did read this thing online where apparently there was an email or a Facebook post or something that went out saying that basically Eland fans had to have no aggressive chanting, no banners or with like aggressive slogans or anything, or like that kind of thing. I mean, do you think, can you have a passionate atmosphere at a football stadium with only positives? Can you be that everyone's like, oh, Eland, you're great, oh, Anyang, you're singing very well? Or do you need that bit of kind of rivalry, that bit of we hate FC Seoul?
I think you need a bit of niggle in there, a bit of rivalry to get things going. I don't know if Eland are doing themselves any favours sometimes with the stuff that they put out, because I think sometimes what they mean to say is not what people hear. And then when people say no aggressive chanting and no banners, Anyang fans all had their banners, and I'm sure that their chanting was occasionally aggressive in some ways. And I think sometimes
after all,
I don't know whether it's the management, the Eland management, are trying to kind of paint themselves as the nice club and putting these things out. But I think the reality is, over time, something is going to develop, and it will be a football club where the fans kind of take ownership of what they do and what they sing. But for the first
lost
game,
in translation so far.
I think
Martin says, "Make it so," and Kevin goes, "No banners, no drink,
yes,
no whatever."
But I'd only be speculating whether there's maybe. I mean, you've got to think that the people at the top of Eland are pulling the strings. and whether there's a bit of a disconnect between the guys on the ground and the marketing team who are actually trying to connect to the fans, and then the diktats that are maybe coming down from the management at the top level might be different. But I think you've got to give them a bit of credit. I mean, they've put on a good game, they've put in a good stadium. The whole thing was reasonably well organised. There's always things that you can pick holes in, but generally everything.
Like their defence.
Like their defence, exactly. I mean, from an experience point of view, I guess the whole thing reminded me a bit of like doing the podcast, because I started off with a couple of unnecessary beers.
Yes.
And then headed up to the match.
There was some singing and some dancing going to be
yeah,
up.
there was the kind of the expectation that it's actually all going to go quite well and that everything's going to work out. And then when it actually gets started, you realise that you're just making a fool of yourself.
Yeah,
and then there's that kind of disappointment at the end, and the next day you wake up and realise it's all been made public and you're on national TV or on the internet or whatever. And you're kind of like,
so this week was probably the high point then. And it's only going to get worse.
And I do believe halfway through the first podcast you did stand up and shout "Best be having you" as well, but I'm not really sure if that did happen.
I'm sure if you go back to episode 1,
you can hear
sometime after lunch tomorrow, you can probably hear Stevie shouting "Let's be having you."
I don't think episode 1 still exists anywhere, so good luck at trying to edit it.
We'll re-upload it with
But something I did find interesting as well was, I put this on Twitter, was the fact that they actually had the English names of the players on their shirts as well. I think we did discuss this, probably not in the podcast. I think we talked about this in Vaughan's
in a pub
one night, and we mentioned about how Ian Porterfield's chicken off at Seoul Station. Yeah,
it seems to be the thing, because there was a couple of weird things. First of all, they had the players' names in English in the back, which seems to be what they do when there's a foreign coach. So Ian Porterfield had it. I'm sure probably St. Augunes and those guys had it when they were at Seoul.
I mean,
Paul's looking at it as confused as he normally does right now. But the other thing they did before the game, they actually counted down the kick-off. And I noticed a few of the fans were saying, why are they counting down in English?
In English, yeah.
They did 10, 9, 8, 7. It's like,
so I can understand that, but the idea that the players' names in English, sure they can't be so that Martin can identify the players. I mean, sure they can be. Surely that big thing with a number on it is probably like a good enough sign. Well, he only has one number 1 on the pitch.
He ought to know their faces by now, right?
Well,
and plus, when you see Korean written in English, it's not exactly the easiest way, like, to read someone's back and say, well, that's Juyong or.
I don't know whether they just think it's more international, and from a marketing point of view, maybe they think. I remember Kim Young Kwan asked for it so that he could just put glory on the shirt.
And that could be it. Something else I did notice as well was actually even the commentators.
They really just
on Sport TV.
Hole, right?
So the commentators on Sport TV were quite happy to call everyone by their nickname. They found Bobby quite easy to say as opposed to like Cullen. But when it came to Glory, every time they said Glory, they just started laughing. Glory, And then after about 15, 20 minutes, they were just like, Kim Young Kwan.
Well,
Kim Young Kwan.
You've always said, Mark, that Bobby does just roll off the tongue.
It is glorious at times as well, yeah. But anyway, as I didn't watch it at home, I did watch it on Sport TV. Something that I don't know if it was deliberate or not is that it was impossible to get it anywhere else online. Africa TV didn't have it. It wasn't on Neighbour. The reason how I know this is because some guys on Twitter were panicking, saying, actually quite a few people on Twitter were saying, where can I get the game? How can I find the game? So I don't know if it was actually blocked.
I'm surprised to hear that though, because they published something before the match that basically said, here's the places you can watch it.
It was on Sport TV.
It was Sport TV 2 or whatever it was. Yeah. But there was 2 or 3 internet.
Yeah. I checked on the K-League website. I checked on the K-League website before the game to see where I was going to watch it.
Yeah.
And it's definitely like 4.
It must have been on the
Down viewer. Sport TV 2, Africa, the 4 of them were.
I mean, I was watching it on Sport TV. I'm just going by on Twitter. There was a lot of reactions about it's not on Africa TV, it's not on Neighbour, and a lot of people were saying, how can I watch this? Why can't I see this first game? So I wasn't sure if maybe it had been blocked.
I mean, no, I can't remember where it was, but I think it was certainly been on Down, because I think all the games are on Down just as part of their deal. So I think it was
Neighbour, Down, Sport TV, Africa.
That's what I was
advertised.
Yeah.
But having said that, I mean, congratulations on them for getting on Sport TV 2, because the match we were trying to watch last week was on some random Sport TV Extra, which I didn't even have in my hat. Yeah.
Which I've got to say, I think all the games should be on Sport TV Plus, because that's the only one I've got in my house.
I've got Sport TV 1 and 2. I don't have Plus at all, so it's like.
Well, again, I mean, every other channel was showing KBO. I mean, this is the problem that we face. Yeah.
And several channels were showing the same game, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, SBS Sports, NBC, and KBS Non-Sports. All three of them were showing the same KBO match. Well, I mean, I don't know if it was the same or not. They all wear white and hit a ball. I don't know much about rounders.
I think the only way you could tell the teams apart this weekend is they had different K-pop stars doing the initial pitch. So you had to work out which stars were at which
why
stadium.
did I watch football?
That's what I thought when I get home on Saturday as well. It's like, why did I go to Goyang Citizen when I could have gone to the baseball?
So what other challenge games were there at the weekend, Steve? Was there anything else that was
basically last week you were saying that come this week E-Land might be top of the league.
Well, I think I said they'd remain unbeaten, and that's proved to be the case.
I think that's what you said, actually. Yeah, I'm agreeing with Stevie. But yeah, that is what you said, and you were perfectly 100% correct.
Yeah, I think that result is actually, that takes Anyang top of the league, so they've had a good start. Elsewhere, Suwon did well. I mean, that looked like a good game. I didn't see all of it, but Suwon versus Bucheon, 3-2.
So basically, like, Rodrigo Parana, I'm sure that is his name, scored the first goal for Bucheon, and then it went 1 each. Suwon equalised it, and I think Japa, and it went 2-1.
What
Parana,
is that guy's name? Is it Japa or Zappa? Or
I don't know. I mean, he seems to be called both.
I assumed it was Frank Zappa or one of his kids had signed for Suwon.
I hope it is, to be honest. I hope it is.
Then Frank Zappa might be dead, but
it is Suwon City. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't think they care.
You'd probably still put 5,000 in the crowd if you signed him.
But looking at the league tables,
there's a few other jokes in there, but
you've got up to 8. From first to 8th, you've got a 1 point gap, right? They're either on 4 or 3 points.
Yeah.
And you've got 3 at the bottom who are on 1 or 0 points. So it looks like it's going to be a long, hard season for you.
Although one of them's only played one game.
But this is another thing as well. So you said, Stevie, that you said there, that's a good result for Anyang, has put them top of the league. On Sunday, I was thinking to myself, like, when it went 1 each, when I got to the last 5 minutes or so, I thought, will Anyang be happy with a 1 each draw away at E-Land? Because they've got no history, it's their first ever game.
Yeah.
So no one actually knows if a 1 each draw at Jamshire was a good result, or it could be a great result.
Could turn up at Daegu next week and lose 3-0, and then Anyang are thinking...
It's a terrible result, so it's like... this is why I think, as Paul said at the beginning, we have to wait 3-4 weeks into the season to see really what actually are E-Land, like how good actually are they going to be, like, was that a great result for Anyang? Was that a terrible result? Was that a great result for E-Land? Was that a terrible result?
Yeah, 2 weeks into the season, you've got to kind of say that about every team as well. I mean, Ansan are sitting second. Yeah. They got a draw away at Gyeongnam again. Is that a good result or a bad result? You've got to see how Gyeongnam play out. And then 1-0 against Cheongju is not really convincing at home. I really thought they were going to probably score 3 or 4 there. So again, but they're sitting second in the table. You've got Gyeongnam now are sitting third in the table. Again, they've had a draw and a win, but away at Goyang is 1-0 good. It took them, I think it was right at the death. It was 85 or 89 minutes or something. It was the goal for Gyeongnam. So again, they're not firing all cylinders. They're struggling to score.
I guess the biggest thing at the moment is Kangwon, who not so long ago were a K-League classic club, who are bottom of the table with 2 losses. So
yeah, I mean, you'd have thought Kangwon would have done better than that, but I think they're the only team that hasn't had a home game yet. So maybe you give them a bit of leeway for the fact that they've been away from home. But you'd think 2 away games that weren't the most difficult size. Maybe they'd have taken something. I know they lost to Sangju last week, but this week it was, who was it again they were playing? Daegu, yeah. So again, you'd have thought maybe Daegu, we could take some, but maybe they were just intimidated by the massive crowd at Daegu.
Yeah, 21,570 or something.
It was some ridiculous number. That was actually more people watched Daegu at the weekend than watched them the entire last season. Yeah. So I think they did 16,000 or something. This was a total crowd for the 2014 season.
Yeah,
and suddenly 20,000 people turn up. It's amazing the difference that you put a temporary stand in and suddenly everybody wants to get in.
To be there, yeah.
It must be the new thing in Korean football, put the temporary stands in.
Both the FC Seoul put a temporary stand in soon as well, like right in the middle of the pitch.
Preferably facing away from the pitch.
Yes. Preferably right across the
They'd sell out immediately. It's like, I don't have to watch this stuff.
Now.
Maybe we can put Chi in the stand, you know what I
No,
mean?
I did promise this week I was not going to slag off FC Seoul. I was boring myself last week with all my digs. But the crowds have been amazing. I don't know what it is. Part of me wants to say maybe the fact that Seoul E-Land are in the league and the fact that they've been getting so much coverage as a new team, maybe people have suddenly realised there actually is a K-League challenge and it's kind of got people out.
I'm pretty sure it's not that. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I'm pretty sure it's not that.
Well, then why have 20,000 people at Daegu suddenly decided I'm going to go and watch the
Well, there
game?
was no Classic on, first of all, although there's no Classic team anywhere near Daegu.
But the baseball was on.
The baseball was on, yeah. I'm not sure if Daegu have a baseball team. I'm not sure if there's...
Don't think... Do they?
If they were playing or
Are
something.
they Samsung Lions in
Yeah,
Daegu?
No,
I think
Samsung
they
Lions
were.
at Daegu. They are actually, aren't they?
Yeah.
Maybe they were away.
Maybe they were away.
Yeah, it was just a nice day and everybody in Daegu thought, oh, nothing
But
else,
I mean, the thing is,
nothing else
it's-
to do in
it's not
Daegu.
just Daegu.
2 years ago, I went to watch FC Seoul play away at Taegu, and drove up to the stadium. It's not actually in Taegu, if you know, right? The World Cup stadium is sort of 10 kilometres outside Taegu. We drive up there, tried to park the car, and there was nowhere to park. So I thought, my God, there are going to be actually people here at the ground today. And you go inside, and as usual, there's absolutely nobody. So,
Yeah.
but
Well,
I think-
something seems to have happened because that was the biggest K-League Challenge crowd ever in the 3 seasons or whatever there's been K-League Challenge.
Okay.
But then the Ansan crowd, I think,
10,000 plus.
10,000, which is amazing for Ansan, and that was the 3rd biggest crowd ever, or something like that.
And then we had Bucheon last
week, Bucheon was again like the
12,000.
2nd or 3rd biggest crowd. So I think in this season there's been like 4 or 5 out of the top 10 K-League Challenge
But didn't
crowds.
Anyang have 10,000 in the same week as Bucheon?
Yeah, Anyang. In the top 10, there's the Daegu game this weekend. There was this Ansan game this weekend. There was Anyang last weekend, and there was Ansan. I think I said Ansan twice, didn't I? Bucheon, I mean,
Bucheon,
last
yeah.
weekend. So there was four games in 2 weeks of one season have suddenly popped up
Yeah.
into the top attended games. Where they couldn't buy a crowd in the last couple of even if you'd have let people in for free, you wouldn't have got 20,000 people in a day
Well,
in
they
the
did.
last couple of seasons.
They were letting people in for free in most of the stadiums. I think that I don't know. I mean, there has to be a reason. It could just be kind of first couple of weeks, whatever. But then, why wasn't it their first couple of weeks last season?
Yeah.
Is it the Uli factor? Is it the fact that they got the final of the Asian Cup? If Koreans suddenly realise there's like really good footballers in Korea, or maybe the Korean team is not as bad as people thought it was.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
And
know.
after
But
Hom Young-bo's disaster, maybe they're feeling a little bit of a kind of goose huddunk.
I do get the feeling that the teams are marketing themselves a little bit better
I
these
think so
days.
as well.
Certainly more on social media, maybe because it's cheaper. They don't
Yeah.
have to spend as much money, but they do seem to get the message out there a little bit better. So maybe people are just starting to take heed, and then maybe the more people turn up, the more it encourages people to turn up the next week as well.
And we have seen some goals. I mean, like Bucheon, Daegu was 2-1, Daegu Gangwon 2-1, Suwon Bucheon 3-2, Anyang 3-0, Sangju 3-1. So there have been some goals as well. There's been a lot of goals in there.
Yeah.
And the challenge in the
Yeah, there's
first
been,
couple of
there's
weeks.
been a few good games.
But
So-
again, it's only the opening week. Everyone's had one home game, right? So
Yeah, apart from Kangwon.
Apart from
everyone's
Kangwon.
had it.
well, but we'll see in the next
I
couple
suppose
of
the
weeks.
challenge for the Kangwon fans will be trying to track down where they're actually playing. Nobody
Yeah.
seems to ever really know.
Last season they played games in Gangneung, Wonju. Like, I read somewhere that next week,
And
I think
somewhere
they're home
else.
next week, they're playing in Sokcho.
Well, yeah, because the idea was that Gangwon weren't going to move around this season, and then I think just before the kick-off they announced, well, actually we're going to play some games
Here, there,
somewhere
everywhere.
else. So, yeah, again, nobody really seems to know what's happening with Gangwon, but they are bottom of the league, so maybe that's for the best.
But I guess if they're called Kangwon, they have the right to move around, same as Gyeongnam, right? They tend to play here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, but it doesn't do a lot for trying to get repeat business in terms of people going every week, does it? Because Gangwon's not the smallest of provinces.
Plus,
It's not
Paul,
the
probably,
easiest one to get
it's
around.
talking about Korean teams moving around might be a little bit controversial for you, do you know what I mean? So that's maybe
That
more
was
my
Mark that
topic.
said that, I didn't say a word.
I think that's time for a break so we can sort this out offline.
Again,
So overall, K-League Challenge, a pretty successful week. Everybody did pretty. The crowds are up. The only thing that we really need to sort out is this E-Land silence issue.
I think so.
I think you had an idea, Mark, didn't you?
I did, yes. So what we did is on Twitter we've started Give E-Land a Song. So the hashtag is Give E-Land a Song. So if you have any ideas about songs that the Eland fans can sing for their players, for their manager, about their stadium or wherever, then please feel free to tweet us one more time at hashtag Give Eland a Song. We'll read the best ones out on air, the ones that we can. And we'll have at the end we'll have a liquid prize for the song that Martin Rennie agrees to get taken on board by the fans.
I think maybe that's the secret. If we can pick one, then we can get Martin Rennie to
actually agree
get
to
the
it.
microphone out pre-game and
Pre-game.
give us a rendition of it in the centre circle.
So we're looking for things about.
Me and Martin Rennie will give us a sing-song in the centre circle pre-game.
And maybe we can get them to chuck in a leopard skin shirt as a prize for the winner.
Absolutely.
Can we get a leopard skin catsuit, please? Spandex as well, the whole lot.
We'll get you the
Whole lot.
full uniform, Mark, if that's what you're desperate for.
Hey, what can I say? There's nothing more I want than to look like I've got the chicken pox again.
I mean, I was trying my best with the songs at the weekend, and
We know.
they just about managed SEFC. I've got to say the Martin Rennie.
But they stumbled halfway through.
They were working on the spelling. Martin Rennie's Barmy Army, I think, got a giggle from a few people who maybe watched some EPL and kind of knew the thing. There's only one Carlisle Mitchell just got blank looks from absolutely everybody, who was just one like, yeah, of course there's only one of them. What are you talking about? He's a person. There's only one of them. So I don't know if you guys have got any better ideas. What should I be trying to encourage the crowd to sing?
Well, I had a small idea for the best, like your number 10, who I think needs some encouragement. I think Bobby needs a little bit of encouragement, I think. So my idea was like to the tune of Winter Wonderland was there's only one Bobby Cullen. He doesn't smile because he's sullen. He's our number 10. Hallelujah, amen. We're walking in a Cullen Wonderland. I think that brings in everything. His sullen face, religion. It's perfect. Everything Eland want and needs in a club.
This from the guy that's given up alcohol for the last week of Lent.
I'm the good religion. I'm the good one.
The Moonies.
Yeah, something like that.
Now let's not go there. Bobby Cullen is half Northern Irish after all, so we don't want to get controversial.
Okay, we can change the words then.
I still haven't worked out what foot he kicks with, but I'll maybe ask him at the next
So
game.
if he's half Northern Irish, do we need to be getting Rangers chants or Celtic chants? I'm still not clear
We've
about
got to
that.
find out.
We can change it to he's Japanese, he scores with ease. How about that one? That's a little bit more polite.
Well, I think
Well,
you'd be
talking about
probably
A's, didn't you have another suggestion for us?
I did actually, yes. I had a suggestion. Well, actually, the suggestion came from Key League podcast avid listener at Korea Racing, who said that if Eland won, it would be we should start a chant of "E's are good" by the Shaman. And then we can say, and we're getting any Vera's sorted. But
Well, I think
unfortunately-
Vera's actually the one girl's name that none of the players have actually got on the side. So
Anyone
But,
got any Rennies?
but-
Sorted.
unfortunately, Eland were unable to
Because
hold
that
on.
would fit in with the Rennies and Justin.
exactly, anybody got any Rennies? That's what we
Anybody got any
did.
Rennies? Martin's good. He's Rennie good. Okay.
What about you, Paul? Have you got one for us?
Well, I was thinking of the World Cup song from a couple of years ago was Vindaloo by Fat Les, where they had the chorus. Which you then edit to take out the gur and have just Eland. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I
Is
get.
that
I
something
mean,
you could sing?
well, to be honest, given the name of the club, any England chant is probably pretty much an open goal, isn't it? You just change England to Eland.
I mean,
Yes.
I do remember that originally Eland was called England, and then they suffered some.
Well, yeah, when they first,
did, yes, that's
yeah,
when
right.
they first set up their retail business, I think it was a guy with a market stall. My wife keeps insisting that Eland is about the same as Primark back in the UK. So she keeps telling me,
Pound stretchers, maybe.
you're supporting Primark FC.
I think it's pound stressors, mate.
It was originally called England, then.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, it was called England. Then they had the trademark
Then
issues in registering it.
Lizzie sued them, right, and said, right, you can't be doing that. So they changed it from England, cut it down to Eland. So.
Yeah,
Well,
which,
what's-
funnily enough, is also the excuse they gave for not giving the name a decent team. the team a decent name even.
No, you were right first time. You were right first time. You didn't give anybody a decent team.
Martin, if you're listening, that's Paul Carver.
And you don't know me.
But no, because all the
yet.
all the suggestions were, let's call the team Seoul Olympic or something, and they're like, oh no, for copyright reasons we couldn't possibly use that name.
So
let's
use
call
our
it
company name.
Seoul E-Land FC.
I think people would. I think there was an idea of Jamshil Town or Jamshil FC, something like that as well. Yeah, but unfortunately they went with the corporate identity.
Yeah. I mean, I think for the songs though, I think as you say, anything with England, any land. I mean, all those international chants, Scotland, England, whatever, they must be able to translate them. The one I think I'm going to start getting going though is I can't even remember the guy that did it. It was the old granddad who did the meat pie sausage rolls. Come on, England, give us a goal. So.
Meat pie sausage roll, come on England, gives a go. Meat pie sausage roll, come on England, gives a go. Ooh, we got a corner. Ooh, we got a corner.
The line I love is just ooh, we got a corner. So I'm gonna try that next week at Daegu. So I hope it's on TV and we'll see how many people I can get to join in with that the first time we get a corner.
I'll be honest, that is way better than like ooh, we get a corner. It's way better than goal.
Absolutely.
Goal, which never results in a goal. Like never.
Or the one where the goalkeeper takes the goal kick and you're like, ooh,
kick.
but it's the wrong way around, right, compared to back home.
Yes.
No, the one that really gets me though is that whenever the striker cocks up and they give it the Quinchana. No, it's really not. You're getting paid thousands of pounds a week to score goals as a professional footballer. At least hit the target, Bobby. Come on.
That was always my big thing about Escudero. Every time Escudero would have a typical fluff in front of goal, the Seoul fans would start singing Escudero. Like, it's the only country where you get praised for having had an absolute mare.
There's a balance somewhere. I mean, you've got to give them a bit of encouragement, and you don't want to be too negative in them. But when you really cock it up and it's Quinchana, it's like, no, it's really not.
I guess coming from watching Celtic when David Hanna was playing in midfield, for anyone who remembers David Hanna, we never gave him any encouragement at all whatsoever.
You could probably have whipped it out at Celtic a few times when you had Chaduri in defence, because he made a few absolute clangers that needed a Quinchana.
Actually, that was why some of my friends got lifelong bans from Celtic Park, was for whipping it out. But anyway, let's move on.
Chaduri in particular.
Yes.
Are they coming for the Chaduri Komawoyo game?
Is that why?
Remember us, Cha?
Is that why he ended up getting divorced? Because he found his proper calling in life.
Yeah, so he was like, whoa, the chairman.
And more to the point, is that why you ended up coming to Korea, Mark? Are you on a register back home?
What can I say? One or two.
Are you ensconced in Chaduri's home tonight?
So that was the K-League Challenge. I think the only other thing we've got to say about the K-League Challenge is just to update on the Almere watch. I think he managed about 42 minutes at the weekend, so well done to Almere.
That's two games?
That's about 40 more than you managed last week.
Did he score?
No, of course not.
Did he get an assist?
Of course not. But he did make it. He came on and he made it all the way to the end of the game.
And he has perfect hair. You have to admit, he has pretty sweet hair.
Well done, Almere.
That's all I can say about him, yeah? Almere.
Standing ovation, I think, for Almere.
Yeah, we have, yes.
Number 99.
Okay. Almere.
We should get him on here if we can.
Yes.
I'm sure he'd be more than welcome.
Do you think he speaks English?
Do you think he plays football? He's managed to forge a career as a professional
If
footballer.
his English is as good as his football, it's going to be a very short interview.
Well, it should be funny though.
You'd probably get injured walking up the elevator, stairs or something like that, you know what I mean? Fall over.
He'll get injured lifting up his calf.
And change his shoes just for the podcast. He'd come in trainers and then put on his fresh shoes.
Hold on, guys, hold on. You put on my new shoes.
And he'll talk for 2 minutes and he'll go out and then bring in someone else to finish off the interview.
Quite possibly.
For anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about,
you should listen to the rest of the podcast if you don't know what we're talking about.
Listen to last week's podcast.
This is why you have to listen to every episode in full. Otherwise you're out of the inside jokes.
Absolutely. And yet again, if you are Almere and you'd like to come on and defend yourself, it's K-League _ podcast on Twitter, and it's 48 shades of football at gmail.com. 48 the number.
On the other hand,
It's 6 minutes more than you lasted this weekend.
on the other hand, if you're really annoyed and you want to throw a firebomb, we won't be at Bonds next week. We'll be at somewhere across the road.
We'll be at Loteria.
Yeah. We'll be in Starbucks.
So, moving on from that, you guys didn't make any games at all, so did you not catch any of the big matches on Saturday in the first round of the Korean FA Cup?
No.
No.
I was.
We've really got two real football diehards here. It's like if FC Seoul are not playing, I can't be bothered.
My defence about not making any games on Saturday is after watching that debacle against Uzbekistan on Friday night, I had actually decided to give up football for life. I didn't want to talk about it, but anyway, I'm sure we'll talk about it later.
Well, I made it up to Goyang Citizen, which was a fantastic day out. I even thought I'll take the family. It's only, I think it's about 20 minutes away from my house.
Really?
So, yeah, I took
Miles from me.
Yeah, I'm up that way anyway. So it was 4 subway stops. I thought, right,
Oh wow.
wife and kid, take them to the game. It was a wonderful day out. The sun was shining. The football was absolutely dreadful. I've never seen such a just 22 people who had
What was
no
what was
idea
the
what
score?
to do.
Clue
Well,
some. Who were they playing? What was the score?
Okay, well the match was Goyang Citizen versus I've got to get their name right. Mok
Goyang Citizen of the
of the K3.
K3.
So I think Goyang Citizen were the K3's second worst team.
Okay.
Just one step above Martyrs, so you know what to expect if you know Seoul Martyrs at all. And then they were playing I've got to get the name right, Mokpo Christian Hospital. I think maybe last week I called them Mokpo Catholic
You did,
Hospital.
yeah,
so I don't want to get in trouble.
Again.
Again,
I
yes.
think you're already in trouble.
So it's
You've been excommunicated already, so it's too late now.
So it was Mokpo Christian Hospital, and we turned up.
Is there actually a Catholic hospital in Mokpo?
No, but I think maybe there's a Catholic university in Mokpo, so I think that was maybe the confusion.
There's a couple of Catholic universities actually.
But I noticed that the name seemed to change somewhere in the middle of it. So it was up at the what's it called, the Ulim Nuri Stadium up in Goyang, which is not the big one where they sometimes play the internationals and where Goyang High play. It's the other one. And it was great. They had 2 fans. They had 2 fans decked out with full Ultras Magpie, I think they call themselves, because the black and white stripes of Goyang. They had 2 fans, and it must be great to have a football club between you and a mate. It seems like the whole club had just been set up for them because there was nobody else there. We actually counted before kick-off. There was 28 people in the stadium to watch kick-off. Now, maybe some of them were a bit thrown because the referee decided to kick off 6 minutes early. So there was a few people who turned up. There was a couple of Ajumas who were walking around the track who looked a bit disgruntled that the referee had started the game early and that they'd missed the first 6 minutes. But it ended 2-0 to Goyang. And I guess maybe the only kind of notable thing was that Goyang actually had a couple of foreign guys. I think they've got 2 Africans in the squad. So they were both on the bench, but one, I think it was Abdoulaye is the guy's name from Ghana, came on after about 10 or 15 minutes, and he was absolutely dreadful for the first half.
Was he a bit of a Georgie Weah's cousin playing for Southampton?
Well, I think I wrote in my blog that...
What's his name? Ali Dyer, right?
Ali Dyer was the guy who played for Iran and got like 120 caps or something.
Jerome Maladia, yeah? Played for Arsenal, is that who you're talking about?
No, the guy that played...
The guy that Souness signed for Southampton was based
on a video.
He was George Weah's cousin, and it turned out
I
he was
remember that.
Someone called up, someone phoned him up and said, "Oh, this is Georgie Weah's cousin."
Yeah.
I said, "Okay, right, we'll sign him then." And he played for like...
He played for about 2 minutes, got hooked, and was never seen again. To be honest, the first half I thought
I'm sure it's Ali Dia or something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that. But the first half I thought, yes, that's exactly what happened, because I wrote his whole first half performance looked like, you remember that scene in Rocky 2 where he's chasing the chicken around the alleyway? That was basically what
Choking the chicken, did you say?
chasing a chicken around the alleyway. But he looked absolutely awful, and then I don't know what he did at half time.
Why did someone got injured to come off after 15 minutes, did they?
Oh yeah, I mean it wasn't exactly a physical game, but I guess they're not that highly toned, so every time somebody knocked somebody else, it was a case of, I think we're going to have to get a stretcher on here.
Which is also what happened in the Martyrs game, except they didn't have any substitutes to bring on, did they?
Well, yeah, that's the wonder of the Korean FA Cup. But yeah, so the Ghanaian guy scored for Goyang, and then after that, I think Mokpo Hospital gave up, and then they lost another one, and it was game over. I noticed immediately after the game there was an Ajoshi team coming on. It seemed to get an even bigger crowd than the Goyang Citizen game. So I an unusual day out, shall I say, and worth the experience. But then you've got across town, the Martyrs, who turned up.
Yeah, they were playing Echon, yeah?
No, the Martyrs were playing against
SK Hynix.
Yeah, another we
Were
assume.
they playing in Echon? Yeah.
Playing in Echon, yeah.
So we assume that SK Hynix and the Christian Hospital must be a sort of similar standard, right? They're both
It's
in
hard-
there as
I mean,
non-league
impossible
amateur.
to know
Amateur
against
teams, I guess, amateur
non-league
teams.
amateur teams. But Seoul Martyrs turned up for the game. Well, they only had 11 players, so they
And
had
no
no
manager,
subs.
apparently.
And the coach just thought, Echon, that's about 2 hours in the bus. I'm not going to bother with that.
Yeah.
We're going to lose anyway, so. But amazingly, they actually still managed to do okay. It was only 4-3 in the end.
They were 1-0 up at one point.
No, they were 2-0.
Well, was it
2-0, and you beeped it up.
Is that what they were singing?
That's what the SK Hynix would have been
2-0.
singing if they were there.
That's what SK Hynix would be singing.
2-0 and you didn't turn up.
But there's a lot of...
They were 2-0 ahead, and then they,
I think the best thing about...
I wonder if
the
2-0 up, there was a few guys like you lying in their beds watching it on TV thinking, oh God, I wish I'd gone. I could have been playing there right now.
If it's any consolation, 1-0... Oh, yeah. I was not in any state to begin doing anything this Saturday.
You'd probably still, even whatever state you're in, you could probably still have got a game for the Martyrs, to be honest.
I will put 10,001 on the table now and say the Martyrs will not score 3 goals again this season.
At all?
You mean,
One
you mean
game?
in the whole
That's
season total?
No, in one game.
Okay.
In any one game this season.
Didn't they win last season? They beat Seoul United 1-0? No?
I think they
didn't
tend
score
to
3.
They tend to save it.
Oh
for
no, because they
Seoul
won
United.
1-0, Paul, yeah?
I'm saying they will not score 3 goals in one match this season again.
Okay, but the best thing about the... I think you're probably right there. I think
So you're not
probably right.
going to take me up on one?
No,
there?
no chance, no way. I think that what I like most about the FA Cup in Korea is that the FA Cup in Scotland, you have some really ridiculous team names. So I mean, like
Bonus.
Inverurie coal miners or something like that.
Inverurie locomotives, isn't
Had a
it?
Vietnamese internationalist playing for them once. I don't know if you remember that story. He worked in the local Vietnamese restaurant.
He just wasn't a local, he was a bartender.
Mental. But on the weekend we had Denso Korea Automotive, who unfortunately lost 1-0 to Woosuk University. I guess Woosuk don't suck, I guess we can say, really badly. In the next round we have more Catholics. we have Catholic
We actually have an
Kwangdong.
official Catholic
You have
Kwangdong
official ones.
University.
For me, the best named team was the Shinan Salt Korea. I mean,
Yeah, so for me, they were the best named team in the last round, definitely. But for me, the pick of the bunch has to be the team that face up against the beaters of the Martyrs, and that is Jeonnam Chorus Mustang. That's just a class name for anyone.
That is the best named team in Korea.
It has to be, isn't it? Jeonnam
And
Chorus
I've
Mustang.
still got their shirt safely tucked away at home, which I got off the centre forward for just turning up at one of their games.
But, there's a few, but yeah, I mean that's my favourite. I love how Hongdae are playing as well. Hongdae University have a game, so
hopefully the game's on a Saturday rather than a Sunday, right? Because if it's on a Sunday, it might be a bit hungover after.
Yeah, well, all the games sadly are on Saturday. That's one of the problems I've got next week. I always try and get to a lower league game on the weekend, and then hopefully take in the E-Land game or whatever as well. But sadly, the E-Land game is on the Saturday this weekend, so I'm not going to be able to go to any of the FA Cup games if I go to the Daegu match.
But I mean, I think I've seen in the last couple of years the KFA have been making attempts to expand the scope of the FA Cup in Korea. So I think, as I mentioned to you guys in our build-up, 2 years ago, it was just basically the league teams plus a couple of all the K-League Challenge, K-League Classic teams, plus some of the
National League.
some of the National League teams, some of the K3 teams, and some of the university teams. And then last year they expanded the scope a bit and included a couple of amateur teams. And this year they've gone from 4 amateur teams to 8 amateur teams. Plus they've included all the K3, all the National League teams. So we've seen the number of teams participating in the Korean FA Cup expanding. And hopefully 10, 20 years down the line will be the same way we are with the English FA Cup. We've got like 700 random teams from sort of tiny villages. And if that happens, that can only be good for Korean football, right?
I don't know if it's good for Korean football, but it's certainly good for the saddos amongst us who like to go to random village team matches on a Sunday afternoon.
So the next week, what time are the normal kickoffs then for the games?
Well, they tend to mix it up. The FA Cup is weird because a lot of times they'll move the games to kind of neutral locations. They'll mess around with the kickoff times, but I think they're all kind of Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. There's usually one that's maybe kind of pulled earlier to lunchtime. Sometimes they'll do a double header.
So having a look at the games here, the earliest game, I think as you said there, Steve, there's always one. That the earliest game is Hanam University against SMCE. Is at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, although it's good to see, looking at the match listings here, that this is Monday and the games are on Saturday, and there's still 4 where they haven't actually published the kick-off time yet, which is very KFA.
Including Mark's favourite, the Chungnam Chorus Mustangs.
The Chungnam Chorus Mustangs, so if they play in Seoul, I might try and go to the game actually.
And the Catholic Kwangdong University as well, which would be your second choice, no doubt.
It would be, yes, of course. But
we'll be at Seoul, won't we? Well, what time's that kick-off to?
It's a 2 o'clock kick-off. I'm just trying to see if I can get from Hanam and watch one half of Hanam University versus SMCE and then get to Seoul.
Probably not, because that Hanam game's probably in Icheon or something ridiculous.
It probably isn't Hanam Dong as a Itaewon, is it? It's probably like somewhere else, yeah?
I've never heard of Hannam University.
I've never heard of them either.
But quite often the university teams they'll have their games moved to proper.
It's in Daejeon.
Anyway.
I've looked at it now. It's Hannam University's in Daejeon, so
yeah.
I don't think I can get from Daejeon to FC Seoul one time. But technically, I could actually go to Daejeon and watch that game, and then go and watch Daejeon versus Songnam.
Yes.
You could.
So that brings us nicely onto the weekend. And where are you guys actually going to be? What is our big preview?
I mean, I'm sure we'll get to the K-League Classic matches in a minute, but the interesting point for me is that E-Land have got another home game.
Absolutely, we built that stadium for a reason. We're going to use it. We spent money on that.
Are you expecting another 4,500 there? Do you think a lot of people will come back based on the performance that you've seen this week?
Be interesting to see actually, because I'm partly thinking. How many of the 4,500 were just there for the opening day just to see what it's like? But there's probably it was covered a lot on TV and not just with my face.
Yes.
There was some actually people that may have actually made people want to go to it. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe the TV coverage sparks other people to go. And the one thing that Seoul do have in their favour is they've got about
Seoul.
Yeah,
Seoul E-Land.
Seoul.
And
I'm making a big point here. I call the team Seoul and I'm going to call the management E-Land. It's a point that I'm making.
I noticed on TV when it had the score up in the corner, it said Seoul and Anyang. So
Yeah.
it's like,
There's only one Seoul in the K-League Challenge. There's only one.
I need to not
Seoul
go
in
to
the K-League.
I need to not go to a Seoul
Stop.
match one week and see what they put on the TV for there, whether it's FC Seoul or whether it's Seoul as well, because we need to differentiate between them.
Well, it's going to be
FC
interesting this weekend because FC Seoul and Seoul E-Land are both at home.
Yeah. But what I was going to say
How are
before
the
I was
police going to spread themselves out for the?
They've got the day off.
Yeah.
They've got the day off.
Is that why they've got the day off?
That's why they've got the day off.
So they can have
Hello.
enough stewards and police presence at both matches.
Okay, so what I was trying to say before I was so rudely interrupted by these FC Seoul fans. Manners do not make us the man at FC Seoul.
Fine.
Well, how many games have you been to this season and where have you been to them at?
Oh, bananas.
Never mind.
Anyway.
What I was going to say about Seoul E-Land is the one thing they've got in their favour, I don't know how, I guess it doesn't compare the same with other teams. They've got about, more than 1,000, probably
40 years history.
1,500 season ticket holders, I would guess. They've got more than 1,000 anyway, somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500. So you've got to assume that at least they'll get 1,000 to every game.
You think so, yeah.
And then whoever turns up in the gate, so they're not going to have the situation that some teams have got where 200 turn up for a match. They're always going to have, I'd say probably 1,500 to 2,000 as a minimum in any given week.
Well, apart from those season ticket holders who have more than one season ticket, though, I guess.
Well, apart from the season ticket holders that maybe get an FC Seoul game to go to, but
yeah.
Of which there are a few, I believe.
we can weed them out, I'm sure, over the course of the season.
You should do. You really should.
You should do. I would do.
Make them make a choice at least.
Yeah,
But
I think we have to do a special at some point on the dual supporting FC Seoul and Seoul E-Land.
Can you have two
supporters.
teams?
Can you have two teams?
Or like Mark.
In the same,
Six.
in the same,
Something, you know what I mean?
Yes.
48
obviously,
teams. 48 teams.
Obviously, Mark will be. Yes, you can. It's
Of course,
easy.
of course. I can be.
It helps if you're permanently drunk, though. Was this week you realised what you'd been doing for the last 2 seasons?
But anyway.
So other games. Seoul E-Land. I guess the other big one is Anyang. Should probably beat Goyang and stay top of the league.
You would think so?
Suwon probably going to beat Cheongju, Gyeongnam
Gyeongnam Sanju?
Sanju. That's It's a good one, actually.
I mean, it's a replay of last season. I mean, obviously, Gyeongnam, I think the last time, I can't remember the score last time they played, to be honest. I do think Sangju won it.
The only reference I have is that last season, both teams did pretty well against Seoul. Sangju beat Seoul maybe 2 or 3 times. Gyeongnam, I don't think Seoul even beat Gyeongnam even once.
So the 2 teams that were relegated did really well against Seoul last year.
I think Gyeongnam probably got 3 draws. Sangju got 2 wins and a loss. I would.
Not exactly.
My head, so.
No, exactly. I guess that's not something Che's got on his CV.
He has many things in his CV, but that's not been a one of them.
But the Gyeongnam game will be a big one to decide.
It's the biggest game of the weekend.
Will also give us a sense to are Gyeongnam actually challengers or are they not? If they can beat Sangju, then you've got to say they're definitely up there in the mix as contenders. If Sangju romp home, then you've got to say no, Gyeongnam are probably going to be on the table.
You would think so.
That'll be probably the interesting one to give us a guide to the season ahead. Ansan Police have taken the week off. If you're at a loose end and you don't know where to go, I'd say get along to Seoul E-Land and we'll see if we can start a song or two.
Yep. And if you want to see an actual real good game of football, probably make your way down to Anyang for Anyang Goyang, Seoul E-Land, probably the 2 big games.
In this league, yeah.
In this league, yeah. I mean,
but there are probably bigger games.
Is there another league on?
The National League is playing.
Well, the FA Cup's on, so I guess
FA Cup's on
big
as well,
games,
yeah. But I think we can move up to K1 or the Big Boys League. Obviously, with the international break last weekend, there was no K-League Classic games. So this week the Classic is back. Paul, will you be going to any games?
I will indeed. I'll be at Sangam for Seoul versus Jeju. Looking to maintain our 5-year unbeaten record against Jeju.
And very appropriately in Holy Week is the return
of
God.
Of God. Oh, Martin's going to contact you tomorrow. So it's the return of Park, the turn of the hero, the welcome home. As
the rock that he's been hiding under has been rolled away.
Yes, the prodigal son has come back. He spent all his money, but he's on his way back. I think we discussed this last week when we talked about the fact that the programme at the Western Sydney Wanderers game had the fact that Park was coming back. It was Park's return. Whether that means Che has no choice but to pick him, it would look that way. I think Park is probably like a bit of a marketing cash cow for GS.
Be interesting to see whether he starts or whether he's on the bench. I'm sure Che can't afford him to leave him out of the matchday squad, but
I mean, as we discussed last week, I don't think Che has. Yeah, he has to play him at some point. I think he'll probably start him. Play him, they give him a half and then get him off and get rid of him for like 45 minutes and then pick his own.
It would be a great move though if you actually put him on the bench and just left him there for the whole 90 minutes. It would actually give me some respect for Che if he actually did that.
Well, apparently that's what he did last year with the Brazilian guy they signed, because
but the Brazilian guy he signed was presumably AN Brazilian as opposed to Park Ji-young.
Plus the Brazilian guy wasn't putting probably about 15,000 on the attendance on Saturday as well. I do know that, for example, LG usually have like free tickets for FC Seoul matches where you can like log on to like their internal website in the company.
Yeah.
They've been sold out for a couple of weeks. It's not going to be a full house. I mean, obviously it's not going to be a full house. I don't think the World Cup season's been full for a long time.
No.
But it's going to be as full as it can be expected.
Certainly be more than 5,000 people there.
Yeah. I mean, there was 32,000 at Park's welcome signing when he came out at half time and kicked a few balls up and down. So I would expect another 30,000 for his actual potential start. So that's obviously the first game, Seoul Jeju. Suwon are at home again against Busan. A chance for Suwon to
their third home game in 4.
It's the third home game in 4. That was a big, huge brown envelope that went to the KFA.
They're not even aware.
This is Paul Carver now channeling the spirit of Alex Ferguson, as if somehow it matters whether you play home or away. It's like at some point they're going to have to play 3 away games in 4. It makes no difference.
But I understood that they played their second game at home because they had to go to Australia the next day for the game against Brisbane. But this week they're going to be at home against Brisbane, so there's no reason why they couldn't go away and play wherever and even things up.
I mean, I think the idea of them being at home again, I mean, as Stevie said, okay, fine, fair enough, you have to play every game, home or away. But obviously, when you have a split system, it does kind of. If it's been done properly, then fine. But if it hasn't been actually done properly, like you could end up with Suwon having more home games than away games in a season, particularly starting with 3 home. But anyway,
there was a case last season that it did work out like that. That I want to say that Chonbuk had an extra home game and maybe also had an extra away game.
I think that's right.
I did work it out, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah.
I'm almost certain it was Ulsan had an extra away game.
That's the nonsense of having a split system.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're going to get ideas from the Scottish League, then you're probably the bottom of the barrel has been gone right through.
But to be honest, Suwon against Busan, it really shouldn't matter whether that stadium, where that game's getting played. I mean, Suwon should be beating Busan every day of the week.
Through round 4, if Suwon have played 3 times at home, who's got the extra away game?
Gwangju.
Yeah, because they played Incheon away, Busan away, and now they've got Ulsan away this weekend.
Yeah, so Gwangju are sitting there nicely up the top of the league, so it's not affected them.
So Gwangju are away to Ulsan on Sunday, which means Gwangju have actually now played 4 away games.
So they've played 4 times away? 4 away games.
So there must be a reason for that. Maybe their stadium's not had its temporary seating put in.
I mean, Paul's trying to claim to be the injured warrior here, with Suwon's got three games at home, but poor old Gwangju, four away games in the trot.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good.
Plus, in a couple of weeks, Seoul are going down to Gwangju, but they're actually playing the game in Mokpo. So even when they're playing at home, they're not playing at home.
The big game, probably the weekend, Jeonbuk versus Pohang. I think that's going to be a huge game. Jeonbuk drew last time out. Pohang obviously beat FC Seoul 2-1. You've watched Pohang once. I've watched Pohang once as well. Paul, what do you think? Think Pohang can stop the green wave?
Well,
the green machine.
The green machine.
Obviously, you and I were at Sangam to watch Jeonbuk.
Yeah.
And I wasn't particularly impressed with Jeonbuk. I mean,
wasn't really.
They did enough to win, but they weren't the sort of brilliant side that we were anticipating them to be.
Although, in fairness, you don't really remember the last 20 minutes. So.
I don't remember the last 30 seconds when there was a sending off.
yes.
The rest of it I remember pretty well.
I mean, I saw Pohang at Suwon, and then they bossed Suwon. They deserved that victory.
They were terrible against Ulsan.
They were really poor against Ulsan. And they looked pretty good against Seoul, so you've got to say, but it's a good time for them to play Jeonbuk, I think.
It's Jeonbuk at home though, right?
Jeonbuk at home, yeah.
So home, Jeonbuk really didn't look that great last week, the week before, when they played Incheon, but you've got, at home you'd probably say it maybe gives them just the edge over Pohang.
Have either of you guys actually been to Jeonbuk Stadium?
No, not yet.
For something that's the same age as Sangam, it's really falling apart. Like the concrete's all crumbling, and it's a really, you wouldn't believe it was built in 2000. Well, you wouldn't believe it was built at the same time as Sangam. But Sangham's in pretty good nick, right?
Yeah,
but Jeonbuk's it's terrible.
Obviously, last time Jeonbuk were at home,
it's a weird juxtaposition there, where you've got Seoul, who've got a nice stadium, and the team's crumbling, versus Jeonbuk,
a crumbling stadium, and a team that's like all shiny and new.
Yeah, so maybe Seoul are spending all that money that they got from transfer fees and keeping the stadium nice and clean.
On curing concrete cancer.
Yes.
But obviously, like the last time Jeonbuk were at home was against Songnam, and they cut the hair off a magpie. What are they going to do for Pohang? And also, what's going to be that was going to be waiting on the Pohang fans, but when they arrived, do you think? I wonder.
Going to tear up some aluminium foil?
I guess, yeah, could be.
I don't know who the Pohang mascot is.
Steely? Probably, I'm assuming. I'm assuming a big piece of shiny Posco steel.
The Korean manager, right?
Yeah, Steely. Yeah. Okay. And
so Uli Steelica will be strung up in the away end.
Well, strangely enough, he was actually there in a Jeonbuk
Strangely enough,
when he kicked the ball off.
The national manager was there in a Jeonbuk top.
Yeah,
that's disgraceful.
Yes, it wasn't the smartest of moves, really, was it?
It's time to.
I really cut that shit out. Okay.
That's what 8 cans in.
So that brings us up to the last game that's left, which is Daejeon versus Songnam. Daejeon have had a pretty torrid season so far. They've been shipping goals left, right and centre. Songnam have looked good in the Asian Champions League, but not particularly that great in the K-League.
You've got to say, we've talked about huge crowds in the K-League, but when you look at that and go, Daejeon at home to Songnam, it doesn't exactly make you want to set your alarm to get up to go to the game, does it?
It wasn't like the last one, like the Daejeon Gwangju had a huge crowd, something like that. It was a sellout, I think Daejeon Gwangju was a sellout. But yeah, I mean, you have to look at it and say probably Daejeon Songnam's not going to be everyone's cup of tea.
I guess the key point here is that we've been making sort of comments the whole of this year about Songnam's solid defence. Daejeon are yet to score a league goal, so it's kind of got
So
1-0.
it should be Daejeon 0.
To be
Anyway,
honest,
Daejeon 0, Songnam 1.
but whenever you think that in the K-League, it ends up being 6-4.
I think this game has nothing East written all over it. I really would be surprised if there's any goals in this game at all.
So you want to double or quits on the man-on bet we did earlier?
No, I'm okay. I think it'll be nothing each, yeah. But I think obviously that's the matches. I think the big talking point is whether or not Che has to play Park. Will Park start? Will he be on the bench? Does Che have a choice? And
Who's pulling the strings?
Who's pulling the strings?
At FC Seoul? That's the one they all want to know. And
So I think
Hopefully it's not Che, because he's not getting evidence that he can do a good puppet show so far.
well, the worst thing would be if it's not Che, then that means if you get rid of Che, you're still going to have the same decisions being made. So
what
I hope it was Che.
So what you're saying is instead of Che being the puppet master, he's the puppet bastard?
Yeah. The puppet bastard. Yeah.
So I think
They'll not get rid of Che anyway, because they're just giving him a 2-year contract extension. Not going to be able to afford to get rid of him. So
exactly.
we're stuck with him at least
You're
until
just
the
spending
end.
all your money keeping the concrete shiny.
I assume what will happen is he'll stay to the end of this year, and then they'll bring in Char as the new manager, and we'll see what kind of fist he can make of it.
That might not be too far from the truth.
You mean Cha Junior and not Cha
Oh, of course,
Senior?
yeah.
That would be a bit of a controversial.
That would be.
There was a photo making the rounds this week of Char Junior, Char Senior, and 3 or 4 of the FC Seoul senior players. So there was a bit of a rumour that is he positioning himself?
That would be an interesting one, because from what I've heard, well, if you appointed Cha Junior, you've got to assume that Cha Senior would be calling the shots in the background. And from what I've heard, Cha Senior gets his strings pulled by Mrs. Cha. So you would actually have Mrs. Cha appointed as FC Seoul manager. So the big question then for, I guess, FC Seoul fans, FC Seoul management, everybody at FC Seoul is who's pulling the strings. I mean, Che's had a good part of his squad sold out from under him.
Pretty much.
We assume had Park Ju-young foisted on him. Probably, who's pulling the strings, who's doing what, who's calling the shots. And then for the FC Seoul fans, it's how many games do they actually let Che keep losing before they start rioting on the streets of Sangam?
Well, last year he had a terrible start, as you know, and he asked the fans to give him 10 games to sort it out, and if he didn't get good results within 10 games, he'd quit. And it actually took him about 12 games to get a good result, but he never quit. So
he's let the side down already.
For me, yeah.
How many games since then has he played, and he hasn't seemed to have sorted it out yet?
It's always been unclear to me how much of it is his decision, how much of it is someone above him pulling his strings and forcing him to do things. It's still unclear. So I want to say, in choosing tonight's closing music, either it's in honour of him having his strings pulled, and if he can tolerate that, or it's in honour of the Seoul fans who are having the wool pulled over their eyes by putting up with the crap that we get week in, week out.
Alright, so I guess the big question then at FC Seoul is who's pulling the strings, who's in charge, who's making the decisions, and I guess we've got a little bit of music lined up, either for Che, who's had his squad sold out from under him, he's had Park Ju-young foisted upon him, and probably a couple of other Brazilians that he didn't want at one time or another, or if not Che, then maybe for the beleaguered FC Seoul fans who have to sit through the dour 1 and 2-0 defeats every week. Here's a little song for you, hope it cheers you up.